right, a lot to get into here on this Christmas Eve. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and coming up, Niners injury news continues to be brutal for this football team. Heading into this game, Niners-Lions on Monday Night Football, a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game. We have some more reporting on the Brock Purdy contract front and the Niners signing an offensive tackle because they are now down to their fourth string offensive tackle on the left side of that line of scrimmage. Before we dive in, just want to say, hope you're all having a great Christmas Eve. You have a great Christmas coming up tomorrow. Hanukkah beginning on the 25th as well. If you don't celebrate those holidays, happy holiday season. I hope all of you have a safe, enjoyable holiday season. You're able to spend some quality time and put together some great memories with those who you really care about. And as always, thank you so much for watching the show. We just surpassed 153,000 subscribers. So a reminder to hit that sub button, because when the Niners make a signing, when they make a move, when there's some news, when there's some buzz, regardless of where I am, at the Chat Sports Studios, here at the at-home setup, if I'm on the road, I'm talking Niners every day right here on this channel. And let's begin with the Niners making a roster move here on this Tuesday, December 24th. The Niners have signed offensive tackle Charlie Heck off the Cardinals practice squad. In order to take him off the Cardinals practice squad, they must add him to the active roster. And this comes during the week in which the Cardinals will be without their two starting tackles, and the 49ers are down to their fourth left tackle. Trent Williams is out for the year. Jalen Moore is out for the year. Spencer Burford, who filled in for Jalen Moore, he's banged up going into this Week 17 tilt against Detroit, and so the Niners needed to make a move at that offensive tackle spot, and they are bringing in Heck off the Arizona practice squad. He's 6'8", 311, so tall, decent size. He hails from Kansas City, Missouri, where he played his high school football at Rockhurst. He went to North Carolina, spent his entire career there in college, 2015 through 2019. He was a fourth-round pick by the Houston Texans, 126 overall back in the 2020 draft. He spent the duration of his rookie contract with Houston, including last year under DeMeco Ryans, and then this year signed with the Arizona Cardinals. In his career, he has played 48 games with 21 starts, a majority of that action and almost all of it as far as his starting experience goes, coming in 2021 with Houston when he played 15 games, 13 starts back a few years ago. And I have his Pro Football Focus numbers here. He had an overall grade of 56. That was 118th among 148 offensive tackles. His pass blocking grade was in the green, a grade of 66.5 there. That ranked 67th at the position. Not a good run blocking tackle that year. He was at 41.1, 144th among 148 offensive tackles, and all of those snaps coming at the right tackle position, 822 of them. He gave up 5 sacks, committed 1 penalty, gave up 3 hits and 29 pressures. That ranked 118th among 148 offensive tackles. So there's a reason why he's not a starting player in this league. There's a reason why he's on the Arizona practice squad, but this is classic 2024 Niners. They are so injured with multiple offensive tackles now out for the rest of the year. Trent Williams, Jalen Moore, and then the third stringer, Spencer Burford, who's only played guard at the NFL level, had to step in at left tackle, and he might not play in this game. So it continues to be an awful season for the Niners, and if they have to turn to Heck protecting Brock Purdy's blind side, it's going to alter the game plan, hopefully. Some quick throws for Purdy. The Lions' offense humming, number 1 scoring offense in the NFL, putting up a bunch of yards. Ben Johnson's been in his bag. He's so creative. He'll bring these trick plays, out of nowhere. Against the Bears last week, they faked a fumble. Jared Goff off the play action, then threw deep for a touchdown. Ben Johnson has just been humming right now. I had made the joke the other day on X, like, how does Ben Johnson come up with these creative plays? And how deep is the list of trick plays that he has? Like, is he just sitting at the crib hitting fat bongs, getting creative with ways to like come up with these insane plays. I joke when I say that, but for real, he's the best offensive play caller and play designer in the National Football League right now. That's a big reason why Detroit has had so much success on the offensive side of the ball. He's put the receivers and tight ends in a position to succeed. The ground game has been really good. Jared Goff has been an MVP candidate, and that's why Ben Johnson is going to be the most sought-after head coaching candidate in the NFL once the calendar flips to 2025, because there are multiple head coaching vacancies, some already available, and every organization is trying to get that hot shot offensive mind to come in and pair up with the young quarterback, ideally, to turn that franchise around. And so this is going to be a big test for this Niners defense going up against Detroit. They've worn down in games, and the Lions have worn teams down in games. And defensively, the Lions have suffered from a litany of injuries, which makes this a little bit easier to absorb if you have to start Heck at that left tackle spot. But statistically, they've still put up some decent numbers on the defensive side of the football, and it could end up being a blowout in favor of Detroit in this game, and Brock Purdy has to be really careful. I know that he wants to put up big numbers. I know that he's trying to produce to get that contract, but that blind side might not be protected to the best way. Elsewhere on the Niners injury front, left guard Aaron Banks going to miss the final 2 games of the year due to an MCL injury. So you're looking at the left side of the line of scrimmage for San Francisco out. And so Nick Sakel had to step in for Banks last week. He'll probably play left guard. It's not a starting caliber left guard in this league. I don't even think he's a backup guard in this league. And then who knows who's going to start at that left tackle spot. And then Jalen Moore also going to miss the last 2 games because of a quad injury. Going into last week, he hadn't given up a sack. And so he was a lone bright spot along that offensive line, in addition to Dominic Pooney. And then Spencer Burford day-to-day as the team awaits an MRI for a calf injury. Kyle Shanahan on Monday did not have like an update on Trent Williams, but said that he won't return this year. The ankle hasn't been able to improve enough to get Williams out there. It's not going to change over the next 2 weeks. He's older. Get him right for next year. And Trent Williams, hopefully he's actually at training camp next summer. So Niners going to make some roster moves here. They bring in Heck, but they might need to bring in another guard. Shanahan did say yesterday, we've brought in a couple of practice squad guys recently, but when you get to this point, when you're down pretty low, we'll have to make decisions on possible guards as well. So they bring in a tackle, might sign a guard. Safety Jair Brown, ankle, linebacker D. Winters, chest, day-to-day. We're not going to see Dre Greenlaw again. The Niners are going to shut him down for the rest of the year. He lasted a half against the Rams, lasted 4 plays against the Dolphins before he had to come out due to calf soreness on that bad leg. It just makes sense. Don't play again, and hopefully you can get him at a discount with the injuries. Shanahan did spend a lot of time talking about Greenlaw, calling his return inspiring after watching what he's been through. Quote, "My gut is most likely that he'll end up being shut down. Have to wait to talk to Dre on that to see how he's doing. That's a decision I'll leave up to Dre depending on how his health is." And if you're Dre Greenlaw, you're going to be a free agent. Why would you risk further injury? Get right. Get strong. It was admirable for you to try to come back as soon as you did. He tore his Achilles in February, and he came back by December. Like, that's pretty impressive, but the leg wasn't able to hold up. And John Lynch even said last week, that's a player that we want to bring back, but it's a risk now to bring him back with the injury history. Running back Isaac Guerendo going to return to practice on Thursday after Christmas. He's day-to-day with a hamstring injury, but that's trending in the right direction. And we watched Patrick Taylor as RB1 against Miami. There's a reason why he's been a special teams player. So in summary here, and this is kind of a weekly segment here on the show as far as Niners injuries, Aaron Banks MCL, out for the rest of the year. Jalen Moore quad, out for the rest of the year. Spencer Burford waiting on an MRI. Dre Greenlaw, out for the year. Jair Brown, D. Winters, day-to-day. Coming up next, new reporting on the Brock Purdy front. And what else do we got? Will Brock Purdy play for the rest of the year, even with these offensive line problems? Kyle Shanahan talked about that. And I do have to read a tweet with what Brian Baldinger said about Jake Brendel which was fantastic because I've seen enough of Jake Brendel. I saw enough last year. Niners should have moved on from him, and Baldy, who understands the trenches very well, he's seen enough of Jake Brendel as well. Before we do that and get to the back half of the show, make sure you sign up with Prize Picks, best daily fantasy sports app in the game. Right now, if you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, you get $50 when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. And right now, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. More than 10 million active members, billions of dollars handed out nationwide, and you just pick 2 or more players. You choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win some big-time cash. So, best daily fantasy sports app in the game. Head to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. Download the app, create an account, run your game with Prize Picks, our sponsor for today's show. Let's just get to what Brian Baldinger had to say about Jake Brendel, because he's legitimately been one of the worst centers in the NFL the last 2 years. And I agree with Baldy with what he's about to say. You know, if you can't protect the interior, teams are really putting an emphasis on drafting, signing, developing really good interior defensive linemen, because if you can wreck running plays right from the middle, right from the snap, and if you can collapse the pocket from the interior and get in that quarterback sight line, muddy up the pocket, you just disrupt plays. I mean, you think about how great Aaron Donald was, Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea. You're seeing that right now with a young player like Jalen Carter with the Eagles, Chris Jones. He's highly paid, making more than $30 million because he does all of that. And so if you're weak along the interior, especially at center, and Brock Purdy's having to drop back, worrying about guys being in his grill, or you can't run it up the middle, that is a problem. I have been talking about this since 2021. The Niners need to improve the offensive line this offseason. That's at right tackle, that's at left guard, that's at center. And here's what Baldy said about Jake Brendel. Quote, "I think they have to upgrade the center spot. I say this to offensive line coaches, and I would say this to Chris Forrester as well, and I respect him. I think he's an excellent coach. But I would say if your center isn't strong, your offensive line is never going to be great." Niners offensive line, not even close to being great. It is an abomination. And Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have to put more of an emphasis on that. As for the latest on Brock Purdy here, according to Diana Rossini of The Athletic, the Niners are reportedly committed to Brock Purdy among recent speculation that the team could pursue quarterback Kirk Cousins if the Atlanta Falcons eventually release him after benching him for Michael Penix Jr. I reported last week the Niners still have confidence in Brock Purdy. They envision him and Kyle Shanahan as being the quarterback head coach duo for this organization moving forward. Of course, the big question is, how much will Brock Purdy get paid? I don't think he's worth $50 to $60 million. I think when you give a quarterback that much money, they have to elevate the team around them. They can't rely on others to elevate them. That's why you're paying the quarterback top dollar. And so I think it could be a huge win for San Francisco if they can get Purdy between $30 and $40 million. But Purdy might point to 2022, 2023 and say, look, you know, I led this team to back-to-back NFC championship games when we've been able to stay healthy. We've been in the Final Four. Last year we made it to the Super Bowl. I was top 5 in MVP voting, and I've put up truly elite numbers throughout my career. And so it's one of the marquee storylines across the National Football League coming up this offseason. If the Niners pay Brock Purdy, how much is he going to get paid? Now, in his first 20 starts, he was nearly perfect, and you knew that wasn't sustainable, right? 17-3 record, completed 69% of his passes, 39 touchdowns, 9 picks, passer rating of 116.6. In his last 20 games, the numbers haven't been terrible. 10-10 record, 64.5% completion rate, a touchdown interception ratio of 26-15, and a passer rating of 93.6. But this year, we've seen Purdy play at a pretty average level, like about a C level. And so that's happened when all of these injuries and instability has been around him. And if you pay him $50 to $60 million, you're worried about how Purdy is playing right now with everybody out. You're not going to be able to have a talented roster like the Niners had last year because you're paying the quarterback so much money. Now, Kyle Shanahan did say that Purdy will play despite all of the offensive line injuries, and it's another opportunity for Purdy to prove that he's worth some coin. Shanahan's direct quote, people deal with that throughout the year, talking about other quarterbacks who deal with bad offensive line play. We've got a football team. We've got to go out. We've got 2 games here, and we've got to see what guys we can put out there, and whatever we do, we're going to put a game plan together as best as we can to give us a chance to win. You know what's crazy, too, before we hop on out of here? There's that stat floating around. In the last 22 years for the Niners, they've been the ultimate boomer bust franchise. They have either made it to the NFC Championship game or Super Bowl, or have not made the playoffs at all each year over the last 22 years. Crazy run. So next year, they're going to be at least in the NFC Championship game, in the Super Bowl, or they're going to miss the playoffs. All right, thanks for tuning into the show here on this Christmas Eve. Wanted to hop on the microphone during what's been a busy day to give you the latest Niners news. Don't forget to hit that sub button. Have a great holiday week. Coverage will continue here on this show. And don't forget to subscribe.